Over the last several decades, there has been a notable increase in women in the workplace and in university. Women are now more likely to graduate from university than men and tend to do better in school overall. Some of this is down to feminism pushing for more women in the workplace, but it may also be related to expanded access to higher education, student loan systems, and greater participation across society. It's all well and good for more women to have access to higher education, but does this actually help or hinder women when it comes to dating? My name is Zarina Matcha, and you're watching The Rational Female. If you enjoy my content, give the video a like and subscribe to my channel. A short while back, I made a video talking about how being a beautiful woman has its drawbacks and that intelligence is a more durable long-term trait. But when it comes to relationships, is intelligence in women actually a desirable trait? Is it true that the more educated a woman is, the harder it is for her to find a husband? In other words, do smart girls finish last? Now, this video is not an attempt to convince you that my supreme intellect is the reason why all my romantic relationships have failed. But it is a curious thing to wonder. There may actually be a correlation between high intellect and low success in romantic relationships for women. Some evolutionary psychologists have theorized that women are wired to want to find a man who earns more money than them because of hypergamy. Evolution made women compete with each other to select the best possible mate, and men to compete with each other for resources to impress women. One can argue that the reason why men typically earn more money than women is because women put financial pressure on men to earn more money. Historically, when women became pregnant, they needed someone to take care of them. This is why men typically want to be the providers. Men and women work together through division of labor to create secure structures to raise children. This is how the human species has evolved. In modern society, with the rise of more women going to university, it is becoming harder for women to find a suitable romantic partner. Although men generally do value intelligence, it is often not ranked as highly as physical attractiveness, youth, or traits associated with warmth and family life. Raising a family requires a specific set of skills, namely patience, emotional intelligence, strong interpersonal skills, and practical skills like being able to cook, clean, and do laundry. These skills are more necessary than being able to quote Aristotle or discuss the third law of thermodynamics. Being highly intellectual can be effective when it comes to advancing the scope of human knowledge. This is why only a minority of people historically have been intellectuals. When it comes to the day-to-day needs of most humans, being able to take care of yourself physically and financially is more important than understanding the ins and outs of the Russian Revolution. Most people have no time nor interest in knowing this. The average woman historically was largely focused on her family and domestic life. This doesn't mean that women were all being oppressed. It just means that women had other responsibilities and things to attend to. This is just common sense, although it's not very common because most people believe that women were historically oppressed thanks to feminist propaganda. They generally ignore all the ways in which women held power and agency in their own ways. How does this present itself in fiction? In the film The Help, Skeeter is smart and ambitious. She has just graduated from university and wants to become a writer. She gets a job at a local paper writing a housekeeping column and starts noticing the racism around her and the treatment of the maids. This prompts her to write a book containing interviews with the maids to expose their experiences. While this is going on, Skeeter meets a man named Stuart, and after a shaky initial meeting, the two begin dating. Initially, Stuart seems attracted to Skeeter's intelligence and ambition, but when she publishes the book about the maids in town, Stuart is not happy about that. He calls her selfish and says that she would be better off on her own. Skeeter is a brave woman who chooses to go against the grain, and this costs her her reputation and her relationship. If she was not an outsider, she probably would have remained in her relationship. I have seen examples of intelligent outlier women facing trouble in their romantic relationships in fiction. A classic example is Jo March from Little Women. I read Little Women a long time ago, and I don't really remember the novel because I was about 12, and I did like Beth a lot because she was the kindest. That is one thing I remember. Jo is considered the most memorable character as she is feisty, tomboyish, and rebels against traditional femininity. I do think I found it fascinating that she turned down a romantic relationship with Laurie because to me it was challenging the stereotypical romantic narrative, and I quite like this. Also, I always thought that Laurie was a black man for some reason. I have no idea why. Apparently he isn't, but okay. Maybe he was described in the book as dark, which I always interpreted as dark-skinned, but when older white authors describe a character as dark, they usually mean dark-haired. It's pretty weird. Louisa May Alcott was a feminist, which is a bit disappointing for me, but not that surprising considering how being an outlier female has long been associated with being a feminist. I often bring up examples of historically successful women who were not feminists, such as Ayn Rand. I think that this is less about feminism and more about a woman wanting more than traditional marriage and motherhood. There have probably always been women who wanted this and decided to go against this. I always interpret this as a personal choice, not some political standpoint. A woman choosing to not become a wife and mother doesn't necessarily mean that she needs to be a feminist. What's also interesting is that at the end of Little Women, Jo actually does become a wife and mother and an accomplished author, so she actually does get both a traditional feminine ending and pursue the career that she wants. I think this is really cool because it shows that women don't necessarily have to be one or the other, if a little bit idealistic. There are a few other examples of intelligent women who also get a romantic relationship at the end. Peggy Olson in Mad Men is not viewed as a classically feminine object of interest in the way that Joan Holloway, Megan Draper, and Jane Sterling all are. Peggy is not really classed as a bombshell, although she does have an affair with Pete Campbell and gets pregnant. Peggy is largely known for her intellect and cutthroat determination. She is very clever and becomes Don's protege. She gains a lot of respect at her job and ends up as a top female creative in the advertising industry. She also gets into a relationship with her long-term friend, Stan Rizzo. I found their ending together incredibly heartwarming and well done. I loved that it subverted the expectations of a successful career woman needing to forego love for success. On the other hand, Joan, who started off as the classic bombshell and did marry a successful man, actually doesn't end up in a relationship. This is actually very interesting storytelling. Amy Farrah Fowler from The Big Bang Theory is contrasted with the more conventionally beautiful Penny. Amy is portrayed as plain and lacking sexuality, and this is even made a joke of in the show. But she does also end up married to a man who matches her intelligence, despite him being a terrible person. Sheldon does love Amy, although in my opinion he doesn't really treat her very well, but then he doesn't treat anyone very well, so yeah. Hermione Granger and Annie Edison are also intelligent girls who are outliers and both struggle with romance. Hermione battles her feelings for Ron throughout the Harry Potter series. She is highly intelligent and assertive, but not seen as the desirable beauty at first glance. Annie is desired by Jeff, but their relationship never really crystallizes, and he is more directly involved with Britta. I think that intelligent women can sometimes suffer from being the overlooked woman because men don't always know how to respond. Intelligent women will challenge their male partner, and men don't always enjoy being challenged intellectually as part of a long-term relationship. Wow, I am definitely projecting here. According to a study done by University College London, women who are the first in their family to attend university are more likely to be childless by their mid-40s compared to women who were not the first in their family to attend university or women who did not attend university at all. One study done in Colombia found that educated women tend to have fewer children than less educated women. Interestingly, the Institute for Family Studies found that women with master's degrees and PhDs actually had slightly more children than women with bachelor's degrees. They also found that 90 to 92% of American women wanted children, regardless of educational level. Nonetheless, it does follow that educated women tend to delay the onset of having children overall compared with less educated women. The reasons for this are complex and usually come from a desire to focus on a career and postpone children, and also the struggle of managing a career with raising children. I have mentioned the novel I Don't Know How She Does It in a few other videos. This book really highlights the challenges of being a working mother, someone who balances having a high-powered career with having a family. It's really an excellent book. Now, this video has largely focused on intelligent women, but I would like to turn my attention to intelligent men. I don't doubt that many intelligent men out there may have faced similar problems to Sir Isaac Newton and Nikola Tesla. Intellectual men in fiction are usually characterized as nerdy outsiders, geeks who enjoy science fiction and thinking. This doesn't usually equate to romantic success. A good example is Chidi Anagonye from The Good Place. Chidi is a typical intellectual, neurotic, perfectionistic, and obsessed with his work. This led him to neglect his romantic relationships when he was on Earth. He manages to overcome this in the show by ending up with Eleanor in what may be one of the most well-developed modern television romances shown. Brian from The Breakfast Club doesn't end the film with a girlfriend. He is the brain, the smart guy. Bender and Andrew both end up with the two girls, Claire and Allison. Brian does not. Family Guy's Brian is also an intellectual who, despite his womanizing, constantly has poor success in maintaining any sort of romantic longevity. So perhaps high intellect actually makes relationships harder for both sexes, not just women. The overall thought here may not be that smart women finish last. It may be that having a higher intellect means you are more likely to prioritize intellectual pursuits and career success over having a family. The film Idiocracy basically covers this. The highly intelligent people put off procreation while the dumb people have unlimited children. Cletus, anyone? It makes sense that people who prioritize intellect are more likely to think carefully and consider the pros and cons of having children before jumping into having children. Highly intellectual people may also simply have other priorities beyond having children and may be more interested in making contributions to art, science, or the humanities, etc., instead of procreating. I don't think that having a family means you have contributed nothing to the world. Raising children takes a lot of effort. It's a big thing to bring new life into this world and to do it well. I don't think anyone should feel like they've done nothing with their life if they have a stable, happy family. Some people do derive purpose from marriage and family, and that's fine. Others derive purpose from a passion or a calling, and for some, they are able to balance both. I think this happens regardless of gender. Many stories ultimately reject the idea that intelligent women, or even intelligent men, are doomed romantically. Instead, they often suggest that finding a compatible partner may simply take longer. Do let me know your thoughts on this below. For regular essays critiquing feminism, follow my Rational Female Substack. Link is available here or in the description below. To support the channel further, consider buying me a coffee via this link. Your support really helps me out a lot.